What's up guys, today is November the 8th, and by the end of this video, you're gonna know how I do my winter hive inspections. Now, we've already had one cold snap here in Missouri, lasted about a week. We still have a few 70-degree days, and so I'm going to be winterizing my hives, number one, and number two, I'm going to do my actual honey harvest. I do natural beekeeping, and so there's 2 times a year I harvest. It is when I unwinterize and when I winterize, which is very foreign to most standard beekeepers. They'll normally pull honey throughout the summer, and then they'll edge off going into the fall. I will wait until they're already into the fall, and then see what the hive will actually need to consume and use, and then we'll back it off from there. Here's everything I need to winterize my hives. For me, a lot of it's the camping gear, and as always, this is gonna take me to winterize my 5 hives under 15 minutes, but it's gonna take longer for me to film the videos than actually doing the work. And so here's what I have. I'm grabbing my hive tool, right? Bee brush if I need it, which I don't think I will. I'm not even gonna bring a smoker because the temperature causes the bees to be very docile. And so I don't think I'm gonna have very many flying around. And then this right here is my insulation, and you'll see how all that goes together later, but there's not really much more. And then of course I have my honey collection bucket, so I'll pull frames and I'll set them in here if there's anything ready to go. All right, so again, no smokers, not too much activity. A lot of people are kind of scared to crack everything open because you'll let all the heat out, and bees work really hard to keep everything warm, and that is true, but today it's gonna be a warmer day, and so before it warms up, I'm gonna go ahead and get in there. I do not have a smoker on me. I am gonna put up my veil just in case, and then I will join you guys here in a second and let you know what's going on. The entrance is here. These are blocked off, and what you're gonna see is the bees are probably in a cluster in a ball, right? And they're gonna start overwintering, and they're kind of down here. The way these frames work is they don't migrate. Once they migrate, go to the top, go to the top, go to the top, boom, that's it. They're done. They don't go anywhere else. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up 1 frame at a time until I hit that main ball. When I do, I'm gonna back off 1 full frame, and anything that's left, I'm gonna take. Also, any half frames that are left, I'm gonna take. So for instance, this frame here, it has nothing on there. But let's say this was just a half frame. I would pull this anyways, and I'd get the bees down inside. This board does have ventilation, and you want to make sure that the bees have ventilation in the wintertime. It sounds counterintuitive, but they're actually going to need that ventilation for carbon dioxide and moisture control, and they will handle that as they please. Real quick, I'll show you what will happen when we're all done after the inspection. We're gonna take this guy right here and just set it over the top, put the lid back on. Well, Hugh, you didn't insulate the sides. That's not worth very much. That's true. And there's a reason for that. The reason is these walls are 2 inches thick, and they're already stuffed full of insulation on the sides and on the bottom. And so this whole thing is already insulated except for the top. And so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a quick inspection here, and we'll get to it. And we're just gonna pull this first frame. Right? All right, so we're just sliding this out. Nothing's going on. I'm gonna go and take this out. Boom, second frame. You guys again see nothing. All right, so, okay. All right, boom. You're at the first frame that you see honey on, and boy, is that a beautiful sight. The honey goes all the way down, and we're just gonna keep going and opening this guy up, checking on it for inspection purposes. So you don't have, there's no half frames in here. Normally you pull this until you hit the brood chamber, then you back it off. I don't know that there's gonna be a brood chamber this late. This also historically has been a hotter hive, meaning that the bees are usually more aggressive, more prone to kind of fighting with and attacking while we're doing the inspection. So I normally always have to use smoke. Let me just move this guy out of the way. Okay, so here's the first one I want to show you. This hive right here, this frame is a half frame of honey. So there's no resources down below. Some of these have resources, so we're probably going to want to backfill with those. We're going to keep going and see during the inspection. So now we're really getting close to the front, and again, we see a bunch of half frames. So remember, we had these 2 that had nothing on them, and then we immediately had bees there, and this is predominantly a full frame. And then we had predominantly a full frame, and then we had started to have less frames, getting less and less. That's because the bees are there in the ball shape. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna continue inspecting because we're already down the last 3 frames, and you can see where the cluster is, right? You got a page out, you've got a partial cluster there, and it's almost like leaves of a ball, right? There's part of them in the ball, other part of the ball. So it's almost like cross sections of a ball. All right, so we're gonna back it all the way out to the back. I'm gonna leave all their resources because they don't have enough to take. They don't really have any half frames either. I'm just gonna pull the empty frames that we have, put the board back in, and we'll go on to the next hive. We'll insulate and go on to the next hive. I know it's kind of anticlimactic here. We weren't able to harvest any honey from this hive, but you know, that's okay. I'd rather these bees make it through the winter. Remember, we practice with natural beekeeping. I'd rather the bees make it and sustain and survive than have to play God. Just let nature do its trick, right? These bees know what they're doing. Well, here's the final frame, and that final frame you guys see has tons of resources on it, and the bees go all the way to it. You guys are gonna see the whole process. We're almost done. All right, so we've been filming this for about eight minutes, and most of that, again, is me explaining what I'm doing. So, you know, it should take you a very short amount of time to actually do this yourself. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of this stuff out of the way. All right, so I just cut this previously to fit, and actually this already fit by itself. Just a standard roll-out insulation. It's probably not great because it's a fiberglass one. I do have a natural wool insulation. My weight back on the lid. All right. And this is a full-blown hive inspection. And here's the two frames. We're gonna leave these bees here so you can shake outside. No bees. All right, we're done. We're going on to the next hive. Again, guys, I cannot get over how beautiful the fall day it is. And installation here. Going to our green hive, Mr. Green Hive. Remember 2 years ago, this is the hive that we caught at Mr. Marty's house. Oh, that's not a good sign. We got a bunch of dead bees up top. You guys are actually seeing this before I am because I can't see. All right, frame number 1, 0 resources. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull that frame because it doesn't have resources, so we don't want them to try to use it or deal with it. And frame 2, we're starting to see resources past frame 2. There might be some on frame 2. Let's see what that looks like here. Okay, so we're gonna check. Again, this is what is on an edge. Looks like it's got partial resources, if not any. So if this has partial resources, we'll go ahead and take it. There is some honey on this. And this is an example of a frame that we do not want them to have, right? Because if there were bees on this frame, the way they work is the bees will start in a cluster at the bottom and they'll eat on their way up. And once they get to the top, they die. So even if there's a full frame next to it of food, they're not gonna go to it. Beyond that, you have a lot more resources. So this frame we're definitely gonna take. So I'm gonna set it aside. We're gonna keep inspecting. You don't want to have the bees. The reason we're removing space when we can, right? We're removing 2 frames, even though they don't need it, is because we don't want them to have too much space for them to guard or keep warm. The smaller and tighter their ball can be, the more efficient. This is a very heavy frame. They got plenty of resources on it. This also looks a little bit like a half frame. We'll see as we get deeper into the hive. Not very many bees on this one. You see more there towards the cluster. And I think this will be a very similar story. I think after the next frame or 2, we're gonna have a picture painted. I think that picture's gonna say, outside of that one weird frame you saw, we're gonna go ahead and leave the rest of their resources for them. All right, guys, I'm gonna share with you how much honey we were able to pull from all of them. It'll take me, as always, it's gonna take me longer to film than it actually does to do the work. So if you think that bees are hard, they're actually very simple if you look and use natural beekeeping. We just got back from everything. As a reminder, if this is helpful to you, by popular request, you guys were asking for merch. And so the merch is linked in the store below if you wanted to check that out. And we might have some special holiday ones. I know Christmas is coming up, but you know, who knows what time of year you're watching this. So winterizing your hives. Let's check out the haul we have. And it really wasn't too much. So the bulk of what we pulled were empty frames, right? We don't want these just sitting in there over the winter. But we pulled weird stuff. All right, so this doesn't have very much resources on that side. There's some on this side. If the bees stayed on this frame, they would have died over the winter time. Similar with this guy, quite a lot of resources. A lot of it's not fully capped. And again, I think the bees would have died had they stayed on it. But the 90% of what we pulled, I think we got 3 partial frames. But if you take a look in here, most everything we pulled is empty comb or stuff that didn't have resources in it. This is another partial frame. If the bees would have tried to overwinter on this frame, they would have died. And so, not too bad. We're winterizing the hives and just kind of cleaning things up. These guys here are probably just gonna live here until next spring. And they'll be ready to give back, right? So it's takes 4 times the amount of energy. And so this is already a drawn out piece of foundation, or partially drawn out piece of foundation, and over this piece. And so it's gonna take a lot of resources to draw out. So if I give a weaker hive, let's say this guy here, very well drawn out on both sides, that's gonna give them a way head start because they don't have to reproduce all this energy to make this comb, which is huge. And again, we're gonna get to eat and extract this just in time for some honey. This would be late season wildflowers, darker. It's not clover flower. It wasn't blooming at the time, and pretty exciting stuff. Remember, if you like this kind of content, please do one thing for me. Share this with somebody. If you're not already subscribed, share this with someone that you think might get value for this. If you have better tips and tricks, I know that we used fiberglass insulation, which isn't the best. I do have natural wool insulation, just had not had time to build it out this year. And the winter is coming, the cold is coming. I wanted to go ahead and get the bees winterized first before anything else. Guys, remember, this is about permaculture. My whole journey pre-COVID started with bees, and now it's about gardening and homesteading and perennial crops and tree crops and rotational grazing with chickens and fun stuff like that. If you like that kind of stuff, I got my start with bees, and so I really enjoy all the bee content that I do. So let me know down below what you'd like to see, and I'll try to get to it. Guys, get out there, grow something. We'll see you next time. Woo!